Hello everyone. We are back in the shadows. Today I wanted to talk about I wanted to expand more on like supernatural beings like manifesting themselves and how you can I guess typically spot them. I do read up on like folklore and stuff like that, and they definitely do like exist in a human form. You just have to know like where to look or how to look. You know, it's often based off of like personality traits and their human design and you know how they tend to operate. I remember I was walking with like I was walking around like the city or whatever, and I spotted like this girl. She was being like followed by this guy, so like I kind of like did the womanly thing and just kind of like intercepted him, and I started walking and talking with her and stuff like that, and then like we had introduced ourselves to each other and whatnot, and she said her name was Diana or something like that, and I looked into like, you know, I decided to look up her name because like I don't know, I just felt the need to, and it turns out she was the Greek goddess of like hunting, which is so weird because she was the one who was being hunted. I've also spoke about like, you know, people being, or my spirit guides being manifested into my reality. For example, I had recently, or it was a while ago, I had lost my way somewhere, or like I was like in the middle of like a crossroads, and like there was like this dude with like red hair who was like in the who was like kind of going in the direction I was supposed to go. And I've spoken about Lucifer the light bearer and who he is, and you know the Bible verse associated with him, Revelations 2:8. So he was standing there, and because like I was kind of in the middle of him, like you know, of us, like, you know, actually making that divine connection, and I still had like that religious trauma in the back of my mind, like yo, he must be deceiving me, so I need to go the other way. But because I went the other way and I did not trust myself and my intuition, knowing who he really was, I got lost. I got turned around everywhere. And you know, once I decided to recenter myself and I went the way that he went, it turned out to be the right way. And I don't know, I kind of find it funny that things like this can happen. But like also I tend to see like if there's on the darker side of things, I tend to see like if there are things attached to people. And the best way that you can necessarily check for yourself, because I don't know, somebody else or like an intuitive like me seeing that, it's like, you know, I'm hoping that you see it too, because like I don't know if people understand how detrimental it can be to like your overall well-being and your relationships with other people, you know. I've been around people who were like going through like heavy grieving periods. And whenever that grief takes over, it can change that person, you know, because when you're grieving somebody, they're also grieving the life that they had. So while you're mourning their death, they're mourning their own life as well. Especially if they left here with like a heavy heart, you know. The only way you can really check for yourself, you know, is to let's just say like eyes never lie. So if you look in the mirror, like genuinely look at yourself in the mirror, and you just look, and what you see doesn't look like the you that you want to be, then there has to be something attached to you, you know. I've tried warning people about entity attachments, because I know what that feels like, when negative entity attachments feel like and what they look like, because I've used this method on myself as well when I was going through a tough period. I looked at myself and like, I don't know, like I looked really feral and haggard, and I I just looked really disheveled, and that was around the time where I was using my power for shit that I shouldn't have even been doing, because I was using my power operating from a wound. But now that I'm healed, I feel and look completely different. But yeah, I try to warn people about these things, and it's like they won't listen to me until it's too late. Sometimes they do things that like are completely out of character, which, you know, something I've experienced as well. You know, they sometimes they even do things that entity would do. You know, like say for example, you had a family member who passed away from like a drug overdose or something like that. You may not indulge in those specific you know, things that they did, but maybe it could be something else. Maybe it could be drinking hash, but like it can be an obsessive amount, or like say if it's something, or maybe you do those things and that's kind of out of the ordinary, you know. And sometimes it can be tied to like sometimes it could be tied to things that you still have of them around, you know. It can be tied to a physical thing, or maybe just, you know, if you feel like you should be you should be technically quote unquote over it already or something, and you're still operating from that wound of grievance even after like a certain, I'm not saying that there's like any time constraint on it, but there's like a point where it's like an excessive amount, you know. You should never stay in that grievance energy. You should never stay in an energy that's like so heavy like that. And the only thing I can really say here is like, look at yourself in the mirror. Like, if you feel like your life's off balance, or you feel like you're not the person that you want to be, look at yourself in the mirror. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be a deceased person. It can be just the wound you're operating from that can manifest itself into your demon, basically. The mark of your beast that has made its mark on you, that's now latching itself onto you. Because like I think I've mentioned this before in one of my posts, is that, you know, just because you're wounded does not mean that you have to be, it doesn't mean that you have to become that beast, but sometimes that beast can take over. So your eyes are the window to your soul. And if it's getting to the point where, you know, you can't look at yourself, you know, or you don't like the person that you see in the mirror, then there may be some energetic work that you need to do, you know. I'm not gonna name these entities because that's just, I don't want anybody, you know, putting themselves in danger, like working with them and whatnot, because like it's not something I'm proud of, so I'd rather not. But the important thing is that I used the easiest method and I got rid of it. And whoever I want, or whoever I'm wishing to stay in my energetic field, they're embedded in stone. Goodness, okay. But yeah. I'm gonna leave it here. I don't know. I hope it made sense. And I hope you can see these signs, because, you know, I can't necessarily tell you any specific signs, because you know you better than anybody else, you know? But yeah. Alright. I'm going to head to bed. I love you all so much. Please like, share, and subscribe to join my herd. And I'll see you guys Tuesday.